Let's kick it!
Hello, this is Rosalinda Randall. I'm a social skills and civility expert, and I'm kicking it with Doree.
Welcome to the Kicking It with Doree show. This is Doree Allen Nieves. My guest today is Rosalinda Randall. Rosalinda Randall is a modern-day social skills, civility, and communication expert based in Northern California. She focuses on helping businesses and individuals communicate and interact more effectively so they can find greater success with a lot less drama. By lending personality and humor, Rosalinda's tactful yet straightforward manner breaks down the perception that social skills are outdated in today's business world. What makes her an expert? Along with training, trend watching, and industry connections, it was her modest upbringing that prepared her best. It did not include finger bowls or fine china. Her parents provided something much more important, a strong foundation of timeless character traits like consideration, tact, and humor on which she bases her life and her presentations. Rosalinda believes that it's how you make people feel when they are around you that makes a difference. This difference is what helps propel a person's career as well as personal relationships. Her book, Don't Burp in the Boardroom, Handling Uncommonly Common Workplace Dilemmas, complements her signature style and humor and has become a must-have book and go-to guide for any individual looking to succeed and advance in today's workplace. Rosalinda frequently appears on television and radio programs nationwide and serves as a source for numerous high-profile publications such as Forbes, Business Insider, Hardy Magazine, The Muse, and Fast Company. On a personal note, she enjoys dancing, Tai Chi, improv classes, and volunteering at juvenile detention centers and with people in recovery. So help me welcome to the show, Rosalinda Randall. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Doree. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm glad to have you here. Your skills are so desperately needed. I don't know why people think that etiquette is an old, outdated thing. It is totally not, and we need it more now than ever.
I agree, but you're right. The word etiquette, which I don't use as often, that's why civility and manners and social skills have kind of replaced that, because people cringe when they hear etiquette, or they think that it is taboo or old-fashioned and no longer necessary. But, the real meaning is just rules that guide our behavior, and we make those rules as we go along in society.
Absolutely. And I think that it's important that we understand why it's important to have that civility and those social skills, because it seems like with the way that technology is going, our fast-paced business interactions, that sometimes things get dropped by the wayside that shouldn't, and so I'm glad to be discussing this with you. We're going to be talking about so many different things that are just issues that all of us, everyday situations have, business-wise, personal-wise, when we're traveling, when we're with family members, just all different kinds of situations. And I had some folks weigh in on this, so thank you for bringing in your comments on social media for this. So I'll be giving a few of my listeners some shout-outs that contributed to this show with some of their questions about etiquette and social skills. So first thing I want to do is mention something really basic, but really, really important, just starting with the issue of names. When I first spoke to Rosalinda, there are many ways, even though her name looks very easy to say, there are very many ways that I could pronounce her name. And so even though I gave it an old college try, I still verified with her that I had her names pronounced correctly. And I said my name a couple of times too, so as to ensure that she would be at ease in addressing me, because my name isn't very common. But what do you see when it comes to names? Because what you hear all the time is, "Oh, I'm so sorry, honey. I'm bad with names."
What can I say? When someone says they're bad with names, either they really are, they don't want to try, they're not interested in you enough to learn your name. That's what I find most people. They just want to give you what they need to give you and get out of there. Your name isn't important. It's, you've got my card, and that's it. But typically when someone says I'm bad with names, to make them feel at ease, because that's part of etiquette, is, "Oh, so am I, so you'll forgive me if I need to ask you again," or "That's why I have my name tag here. I guess that's why they give us our name tags." Something like that. I try not to get bent out of shape over it, especially if I'm never going to see that person again. And that tells me a lot about the person. If they don't even want to try to get my name at that moment, you can forget it the minute you walk away. But at that moment, then I probably don't want to be your friend or do business with you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Mm-hmm, exactly. One of the things that I always do is, even though it's not spelled that way, my name rhymes with Marie. And Marie is a pretty common name, one of the most common ones you can get. And so I just say, hey, it's like Marie with a D. And don't look at how it's spelled. Just listen to what I'm saying. It sounds like Marie. Now replace the M with a D. And then everybody gets it. As soon as I say that, oh, Doree. And they get it.
And they'll probably remember it more because you actually had a little conversation about it. And that's great that you take that method to do that instead of getting offended or making people know it's Doree, it's Doree. You give them some assistance, and that is a really kind and courteous thing to do. I do that with my name because it's long, Rosalinda. The first thing, and not everyone, but the first thing I get asked is, do you have anything shorter? Can I call you something shorter? And I said, nothing that I like. And, I've had a couple of people kind of give me a look like, oh, okay. I mean, get mad at my mom and dad. They gave me the name. I didn't pick it.
Mm-hmm.
But when I see that, I just say, yeah, sorry, I've tried them all, and just none of them suit me. So it's Rosalinda. And that's it. I mean, if they don't like it, then I'm not sorry, but bye-bye.
Sorry, not sorry. Okay. Another one that we all can relate to is people talking on cell phones in public. Long conversations, loud conversations, things you're not supposed to hear.
Yes. And short of posting things, I forgot what country, and I should have this at the tip of my fingers, but it was either a European country or in China. They were actually posting signs on public transportation about this, to be civil, to be courteous when you're on your cell phone in public. And the thing that strikes me the most, aside from, as you mentioned, hearing things we shouldn't, I mean, that's the one thing I tell people, keep it G-rated. You don't know if there's a child standing next to you or a person of the religious convictions and you're talking all this stuff you did last night with your boyfriend or whatever. It just isn't something to share. And besides, you don't know who could be listening to you. If you're on your way to an interview, how do you know? I mean, it is a small world. And something similar actually happened in Australia. It could be the person you're going to see the interview and they're listening to you and see how you behave on public transportation. And then there you meet in the elevator, and that doesn't look good.
Mm-hmm.
So keeping it in a low voice, keep it away from others if you can. When you're out in public, make it brief. Go to a private space. And the last two is, if you're with your child, get off your phone. Especially if it's a child walking. You don't know when they slip away and you're down there looking at your phone. You don't know what can happen. That's the one that bothers me the most. Your attention isn't there on your child. And finally, you are expecting the world, your community, whatever, to watch out for you so that you don't bump into the pole because your head is buried on your phone. So those are just certain things that, come on, people, it's common sense.
Mm-hmm. It's a shame, too, because you really think that it's something that everyone should know and that everyone should do, and there's so many people that just don't. And it's not just young people. It's not even age related. I wish we could just make it that simple and say, oh, it's just the millennials. It's just the teenagers. No, it's a lot of people in their 50s and their 20s. Doesn't matter. My daughter is not that young anymore. She is now a teenager, but I do remember all the time taking her to, different playgrounds, whether it's outside at the park or, at the mall or something, or having to take her to Chuck E. Cheese. Thank God I don't have to take her to Chuck E. Cheese anymore. And I'm just like really grateful that, some of the hangups that I had with going to those places had to do with the way that other people kind of did not pay attention to their kids. We were just talking about this, but it could be that they're on their phone. It could just be that they're in the clouds, or just maybe they're just really hands off with their parenting style. But a lot of kids, they're playing on the playground. Their kids are going to be kids. Somebody might shove somebody, or somebody might not let someone else take a turn like they should, like most children are taught. And I even remember, a couple of weeks ago, I was in the doctor's office and I was, in the waiting room. And before I was called, I noticed that there was a loud child, and I looked up And there was like a little 6 or 7-year-old boy who was like loudly playing on his game and running all around the waiting room as if it was his living room. And the adults that he came with were gone. I think that they actually either went to the bathroom or went to the back to the doctor's room and left that boy in the waiting room. And so it was very, very awkward, but no staff said anything. The receptionist didn't do anything. I mean, when the boy came into the receptionist, she was just playing with him, talking with him in a cutesy little voice and stuff, but nobody went and got the adults or anything. So I have an issue with children that are left unattended because their behavior is such that they need guidance.
Oh, you hit it right on the head. Yes. And not only that, but what about the liability? Did the doctor in that office taking that particular situation know that there's a child? What if he had gotten hurt and the receptionist was on the phone and no one saw him? Or taken, I mean, God forbid, anything like that. He could have run down the hall and there he'd be gone. But I think a lot of parents, instead of taking the time and having the patience to teach them at that time, because all kids are going to do it. But I agree with you, my job as a parent to teach them, no, honey, this is a place where it's quiet. And for Pete's sake, you have something to entertain them. Back in my day, I didn't have video games to my sons or anything. So we had to learn how to spend some time there without getting bored. And we pick up magazines and I'd make a game out of it. And that kept them entertained and quiet. But that takes full attention, which now with our phones, most parents don't have the full attention. They glance up and down and that's just it. And yeah, going back to the playground, you're right. Again, liability. The parent who's on their phone or chit-chatting, gossiping with the neighbor lady, not watching their child. If their child gets hurt, they'll probably be the first one at City Hall suing because their child got hurt. And what I say to parents like that, if you're not looking, you're not engaged, or at least glancing up every few seconds to see your child, do not flip out when another parent comes over with their child and goes, your little Johnny hit my little Susie. And don't flip out. You were not watching, so you don't know. And I know that that's happened before. Like, well, how do you know it was my child? Well, I was watching. That's why.
Unlike you. Exactly. Okay. Next very common scenario. On the airplane. People stretching out, maybe moving, kicking the seat that's in front of them, bumping it with their knees. Maybe it's a child. Sometimes it's an adult. Opening up the tray table. Fooling around, just not being considerate of the person that's, sitting nearby, sitting in front of them.
I want to tell people, I wish it was part of the announcement. Excuse me, everyone, you are not at home. This is not your home. I think people need a reminder when they start taking off their shoes, unbuckling their belt. I saw a woman who wanted to hold her legs up, so she tied a scarf around the seat in front of her. There was someone there and made like a hammock type thing. It was quite clever, to be honest with you, but took her shoes off, and there they are right next to me, and put her feet up, made herself like a little foot hammock, and constantly moving. I don't know how the guy in front of her did not say anything. He was a saint. I wish I could have shaken his hand. But so you see people do all kinds of things on the plane. I say, if you want more comfort, pay for first class. They'll let you do whatever you want up there, within reason, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the bumping of the chair, I think people, quite honestly, I cannot say why. Unless someone does it to them, they're not aware that the tray table, slamming it, you feel that. It's a part of the chair in front of you. Bumping it, or when they have the screens, it says touch screen, not pound screen. That people don't do that. And then going back to children again, poor children, it's not their fault that they're kicking or whatever they're doing on the chair in front of them. It's up to the parent. And I did have a situation like that where the child was kicking. It was a short flight, so I thought, all right, I'm just going to sort of live with this. But it got so bad that, I did that, how we all do that, adjusting our seat, sitting position, and that loud sigh, hoping they'll get it.
Yeah.
They didn't. So I did turn around and I said, oh, excuse me, I'm trying to sleep. Would you mind not kicking the chair?
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at the child, not the parent. And it helped for a little while, and then they started again. But, I also recommend if you tried it politely and discreetly, there's nothing wrong with turning around and asking someone, oh, I'm sorry. Even I believe in kind of taking it on myself, like, oh, I'm just a sensitive sleeper. I'm trying to get some rest or read. would you mind not kicking the chair, or I feel the chair moving, something to that effect.
Yeah.
And see what they do. But again, you have to read the situation. That's where awareness comes in. Are they already belligerent? Or do they look like they're partying with their friends drunk? Do they look approachable? You have to decide whether it's worth it or not. If it's a short flight, maybe not. There's another seat. Ask the flight attendant, go up to the restroom area and see if you can switch seats. Sometimes that's the best thing to do, depending on the person.
Yeah. Yeah, and if it's not a full flight, because it seems like a lot of the flights I take are like always all full. It's been years since I got on an airplane and there were, lots of extra seats. I don't know what's going on, but that's another subject.
Definitely. A couple of other things that I want to mention to people that fly. Please shower. It's surprising to me how many people smell and look like they just rolled out of bed. I'm sorry you took a 6 o'clock in the morning flight and you didn't have time. At least shower the night before and put on something clean that morning. That's all it takes,
Yeah. Like we said, common courtesy. And it's always people like that don't smell themselves. You notice that? Like they act like that everything is just fine. But, hopefully it's not an international flight and you won't have to deal with it that long.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Okay, next up, let's talk about social media. We're talking about being social on the airplane, but now social media. A lot of people think that having communication on Facebook and Twitter is a substitute for getting to know someone, especially when we're talking about networking, that you can just roll up on somebody and just be like, hey, and throw things at them, shoot them links, ask for things. It's not the kind of thing that you would ask for in person when you just met them, but because we're online now, you feel like you can just go up and just ask people for things like, oh, buy my stuff. Here, go to my site. Here, do this. Like, wait a minute. I don't know you.
Yes, that happens all too often. And immediately when someone does that, when we first connect, I'm a big Twitter person more so than Facebook, but, they're automated things to, hi, look at my this, look at my that, and for free I'll give you this, or please buy my that. Please tweet back and forth with me twice before you send me stuff. So that is a big turnoff. But again, people, I guess, just throw that out there and it must work for them. Maybe 1 out of 100 bites, and that's why they continue to do it. But social media is a quicker version of getting to know someone because it is instant and at any time of the day where you can post something and see how that person replies. So you are, in essence, getting to know someone, but you're missing the nuances, the facial expressions, the tone of voice. And sometimes the words we use on there, because we want to make it quick and short, aren't the words we'd use if we were face-to-face with a little more time. So there can be a lot of misunderstandings on social media, as well as, you saying things you wouldn't normally say face-to-face. I've been blocked by some people. One thing, nothing that I posted. It was people that I know. And when I say I know, not necessarily have ever met in person, but friends of friends or so, who posted something, and it was an opinion. It really was very polite, but it was an opinion. And apparently someone who was my friend that I met face to face didn't like that I allowed people like that to post those types of opinions. And because I'm acquainted somehow with people like that, she decided that we needed to end our relationship, which was really sad. But I don't judge. I like hearing other people's opinions. And so things like that have been happening quite a bit as well.
Yes. There are many differences of opinion, and that happens. I see that more so on Facebook because I use Facebook a little bit more than Twitter, but you have to decide where you're going to draw the line. There's different things that happen in the world, in politics, in the news that just really spark, heated debates. And we have to kind of learn when to tolerate people and when to put our foot down. And I know that's a personal decision. So I just feel like there should just be more etiquette when it comes to social media. Don't add people to a Facebook group if they haven't expressed interest in joining. I mean, there's clearly a button where you can request to join. Absolutely tell me about your new group. Let me know what you're trying to do. And if we're friends and, I approve your message, then I'll support you. I might even send a couple of people your way that might be interested. But don't just spam me into these groups and things. I wish Facebook wouldn't even allow that. you should have to get permission or be sent an invitation. Like, you have to be asked to like a fan page. But for some reason, the groups is not a permission-based situation.
No, that's true. And similarly with tagging you on a picture, if you're somewhere and you got your picture taken at an event or something, maybe you didn't want anyone to know you were at that event. Maybe it's a personal thing that you want to keep that way from coworkers and nothing terrible or salacious, but just even a religious event or a political event or anything that you support, but you don't want out there. And people don't give you a choice. Oh, I was with and you're tagged. And I've been asked, what can you do once that gets out there? Well, the first time is privately contact the person who posted it immediately and ask them to take that down because it has the picture of you in it. Or if you don't mind your picture, but you just don't want your name, then you can ask them to do that. But once it's shared, now you have to find out who shared it, and it's over. So if you don't catch it right away, it's over. And at that point, you can just ask them never to do that again, please, without your permission. Mm-hmm. But once it's out there, it's, as we all know, anything we say is out there. And, I wanted to quickly address when you said, we get very, not impassioned, but just fervent or in our beliefs and things that we want to comment on. I always ask people to ask themselves, how will it help if what you're posting, will it be helpful the way you're posting? If you're going to name call or tell me I'm wrong or you're an idiot or call names or put posters of people, things that are just not nice, that's not going to help me see your way. And that's what I tell people. The best way to encourage people to see your way is to speak honestly and nicely without putting the other person down for what they believe. And a lot of times I think it's our ego that gets in the way, that we're trying to make other people see it our way and in a forceful fashion versus trying to open the door of communication and understand.
I know that with any social media, anything online, again, we are assuming that we know each other, but it could be people that we've met. It could be people that we know well, but there could be people that we really don't know well. And so you have to take things with a grain of salt. You really can't assume, like you said, that people will see things your way. And you have to not take shortcuts in certain situations. Like, you have to be clear with your communication and be more tolerant or more mindful of other people.
Yes, and if you're going to be out there, you have to expect that there are going to be things you disagree with. And if you don't like that, then I think social media is probably not for you, or only associate and accept friends that are like-minded, and that's it. You can do that. Mm-hmm. And lastly is, I know that some people, in fact, two that I know of, one personally said, well, I'm going to be off Facebook. I get my feelings hurt. Why is nobody liking my posts? Again, to be on social media, you need to have some thick skin or start developing it. Not everyone's going to like or, support your cause or anything. And if you take that personally, you're going to be a very, very sad person.
That's true. You'll get depressed very quickly. We could talk a whole show just about social media, but we're going to get a little bit more serious right now. How about personal questions? Like, I did it. Well, this is one of my first shows when I first launched. I talked to a couple of different women that had had miscarriages, that have never had children. They're married, they're happily married, but just never had children, always wanted them, didn't happen for them. I've talked to women who, these same women, of course, as most women are in this country, were asked at a young age or even in midlife, when are you going to have kids? And it's just people asking, and they might mean well, but you don't realize that that person may have been trying. You don't know what they want out of life. Maybe they have no interest. You just assume because they're a woman of a certain age that they should have children. And I know I've been asked, my daughter is 13 and I love her to death, but she was a doozy. When I had her, I didn't want any more. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, really? So no. I personally didn't want to have more than one. And there's, people have their opinions about only children or, she needs a playmate. You should have another child. And I mean, I got married last year, but she's 13 now. I don't really want to start over right now. So it's like, it's a personal thing for that person, whether they're in a relationship or not. It's their body and it's their decision. And I wonder why people ask such personal questions about that's just one example, but people ask your age, people ask how much money you make. I mean, it's just, I don't know why they do that.
Well, I have some theories. Sometimes people, and again, don't hate me, ladies, but sometimes it seems more common for women tend to get personal to develop and build that relationship quickly. Let's see what we have in common. And that we can find other things in common, like our businesses. Let's start there. But that's one of the things. They don't consider it to be too personal. There are some people who will tell you anything and more than you want to know. So they think, well, why wouldn't you? And then there are those people who just have a boring, lonely life, have no social skills, and they don't know what else to talk about. They just go home and watch TV and have nothing else, so that they just jump in and go, and start asking questions. But we do not have to answer. And, I struggled with this for years. And in fact, probably 7 years ago, maybe 8, something happened that made me get so angry that I thought, never, ever again. I was in the situation that I said, no, I'd rather not talk about it. And they insisted, and they insisted. And these were acquaintances, almost friends. And I said, no. And they insisted so much that I ended up telling them something that was very personal to me. And when we left, I was angry for weeks at these people until it hit me. They can ask, I didn't have to answer. And if it meant walking out in the middle of dinner, which that's when it happened, that was my choice. And I chose not to do it. I chose to divulge. And from then on, if I don't want to answer something, because I'm a very personal person, I need to get to know you very well before I let you in. And good and bad, I guess. There are very many go-to things. Oh, I'd rather not talk about that. I mean, you can get sassy and say, that's kind of personal, don't you think? But, if that's a little sassier, I'd like to change the subject. Or, we barely know each other. I'm surprised you're asking me that. I mean, there's all kinds of ways you can go. But the basic go-to is, thank you for your interest, but that's not something I'm comfortable talking about. Or I'd rather not discuss that. And immediately disengage eye contact or change the subject. It takes practice.
Very good. Absolutely. There's a lot of people who have that approval addiction, or they kind of are afraid of not being liked. But I like that assertive approach of letting people know that, you know what, I'd rather not talk about that. A couple of shows ago, we were talking about something else, but it goes with this where I said, you know what, you can tell people no, like you can say no, I'm not going to be able to do that. I'm not available. And it's a very simple sentence, but it gives you power. It empowers you. It disables them. And if they want to push the issue, they can, but you've answered the question, so you don't have to feel like I have to. And same thing that you're saying.
Yes. No, that's very true. And as women, again, typically, I'm just generalizing, we like to, what I call sprinkle fairy dust around our no. Well, no, I really wish I could, but I've got this to do today, and oh my gosh, we dance around the no, whereas we can say exactly what you said. No, it's my go-to, and I always tell people, practice in the mirror until it gets comfortable, and choose whatever words you need. No, it's not going to work for me. Sorry. Mm-hmm. If you want to add sorry. It's not going to work. That's it.
Yep, and you don't have to be sorry, but if you want to say sorry, you can,
Mm-hmm.
Another serious issue is when there's someone who has experienced a loss, or someone who is either dealing with a chronic illness themselves, or someone like me who is very close to someone that's dealing with a chronic illness, because people want to try to seem supportive and they really do feel bad, or they understand that there's an issue, and they might say things that, I guess it's because they don't know what to say. So they say things like, oh, I know how you feel, or oh, I'm sorry. Have you tried such and such? These are some remedies you can use for such and such, and this will cure your whatever. Or they might just say, well, I hope you feel better soon, even though this person has been dealing with this sickness for months or even years. And so let's talk a little bit about what to say and what not to say when someone is dealing with a death or a loss, they're grieving, or they're in a situation where there's an illness that may not be cured or that has been long suffering.
Wow, that's a tough one. For chronic illness, someone who, is debilitated for an indefinite period, That's a little bit different. Some of the things you don't want to say is, I don't know how you handle this, or, similar to what you said. You can't even tell you have that. Are you sure you aren't cured, or things like that? What can be helpful to people, say they are homebound without assistance, they can't leave the house. But if it's something that you can, call them. I'm going to the store. Are you have a hankering for something? I can bring it by, or would you like to come with me? I know that's a huge undertaking. And again, if it's not some medical condition that you can't handle, obviously, but take them out. That's your volunteer thing. Would you like to come with me? Or instead of saying, can I visit sometime? Let me know when. That leaves it so open. And most of us maybe want to reach out, but we feel we're imposing. So a better way would be, what's the best way to contact you? Email, text, or just call you so I can come by and visit sometime next week. So you take control. Or would you like to do something fun? Or do you enjoy playing games? Or I've got this puzzle. Do you like it? Go by and visit them in their environment that they're comfortable with. So that's for the chronically ill, just a few things to think about. And for the grieving, sometimes if we know it's a person of religion, who is a religious person, many times we do. It's God's will. There's a reason for everything. God wanted an angel. I've heard that one before. And, I've talked to some people about this, and in fact, a couple of people who are in the industry. And they said, for some, that's okay. Their religious beliefs, that gives them something to hang on to, and they're okay with it. While other people go, I didn't want my husband or my child to be an angel yet. That makes them angrier.
Mm-hmm.
Or he's in a better place. We are assuming heaven here. If I'm angry or bitter, I'm going to go, no, the better place is with me. That's not going to help me.
Right.
So, she brought this on herself. Say it was a drug addiction and, or something that they did, their behavior did bring about this death. That's not a time to say, if he would have gone to counseling, if he would have gone, oh my gosh, those are just stab me again, just stab me in the heart when you say things like that. So and again, going back to the religious component, that could be very soothing for some people, and for others. I remember I had a death in the family, and I was very angry with God. I just was. So I didn't want to hear anybody say, oh, God this or God that. I've made amends with the big guy by now. But, at the time, that wasn't what I needed to hear. So just be aware of situations like that. But I'm sorry for your loss, like you said. I'm just a phone call away, invite them. May I call you? And most of all, it's usually weeks later or a couple, 3 months later, where these people who are going through this, it hits them. They've done all the paperwork, they've emptied the closet, and the casseroles have stopped coming. And that's when they feel the loneliest. So don't forget them weeks and months later.
That is so good, Rosalinda. That is so good. That is really when people need you the most, is just every day, you know what? I'm still not over it, because there really is not a set period of time to grieve. It takes as long as it takes. And so reaching out to people, letting them know that you're there. I like to say I'm sorry in the beginning, and then after some time has settled a bit, come back and pop up later and say, hey, how you doing? I don't even mention what's going on. I leave it up to that person to bring that up or not, because it's possible that just by me spending time with them on the phone or in person for, 30 minutes or an hour, that will bring up their spirits a bit. And just letting them know, like you said at the end, I'm always here if you need me. Oh, you're not available? Okay, well, maybe I'll call you back in a couple of weeks, or I'll hit you up next month, because I just want you to know that I'm here for you. You know what I mean? Just thinking about you. I just wanted to check on you right quick.
Yes. And as you said, some people may want to be alone for a long time. No, I don't want to talk. And then all of a sudden they do. So even when they don't, sending a text, there's so many methods that we are non-invasive, that we can stay in contact with people these days, or even send a card in the mail. Like, who does that? And that can be a fun thing for them to receive, or something just comforting, to read the words instead.
Yep, exactly. And I'm a big proponent of greeting cards. All right, now I want to bring up some listener questions. And I've got a few here from various people. I'll give them shout outs. Thank you so much for listening to the show and for giving your feedback. Keep it coming. This question is from Julie B. in Utica, New York, and she mentions table manners. She talks about how people should know not to talk with food in their mouth or to not put their elbows on the table and to not, please don't use the phone while you're having a meal with somebody. Actually, why don't you pay attention to the person you're with and enjoy their company instead of being stuck on the phone?
Well, Julie, you are right. However, let's just take one at a time very quickly, is talking with food in your mouth. That's why I encourage people to take small, bite-sized bites in their mouth, because inevitably you're out to dinner, there's conversation. So people, tend to put their hand over their lips or the one finger like, wait a minute, or they hold their napkin over their mouth. Like, I know what you're doing. You're eating that huge bite that you should have taken, and you're going to swallow it like a big cobra. This thing's going to go down your throat. So anytime you are out dining with other people, take smaller bites, because then you can respond. You move the food over, I know this sounds kind of gross, over to one side of your mouth. And if it's small, you're not going to look like a chipmunk. And you respond, with one sentence, and then it's their turn. And while they're talking, that's when you complete chewing and swallow your food. That's one. Elbows on the table. If you're going to a very formal event, formal dining, never, ever, ever place elbows on the table. But sometimes, and this is, in the etiquette world, there's debate on this, but if it's a more casual atmosphere or a business interview, or you're a client, between courses, meaning there is nothing in front of you, there's no plate, sometimes putting one elbow to lean in because you're trying to make this point, or just leaning in for a confidential exchange, that is acceptable, one elbow. But when the food arrives, the next course, no elbows, no more than your wrists should ever be on the table. And then to the phones, which, oh my gosh, you see families, mom, dad, and siblings, all their own phones with their heads down. I say, sometimes you gotta just go with what society does up to a point. If I go with someone, I'm out to dinner with you, not you and all your 333 friends. So let's just keep it here. Now, if we bring out our phone to check a schedule, to check when the movie starts, or we're sharing pictures, if everyone's involved, that would be okay. It's like when we used to pull out our phone, our pictures and pass them around. So there are times when bringing your phone out is okay, but not in a business setting. Never, ever, ever. Again, unless you're going to check a schedule and they want you to make the appointment right there and then, I wouldn't even put it on the table. Because if you're in a habit of having your phone, even if you see it vibrate or hear it vibrate or see the light up, you're going to disengage from the focus of that conversation to pay attention to that phone, or it's just going to trigger a reaction. So I would off the table.
Yeah. I even hear about this when it comes to dates. Somebody was telling me that he took this woman out and he was just like, you know what? If you just came out for a free dinner, you could have let me know, but I'm trying to get to know you and you just will not stay off your phone for anything. Like, she didn't even try to hide it. So that was kind of offensive.
Very. And what can you do at that point? You're going to pay or say, walk out? Yeah. And people are on Twitter with their food and all that stuff. And that's okay if you're with a group of friends, but definitely not on date. You're there to get to know each other. And if it's going poorly, like salad, just say, we're not feeling it. Thank you so much for the salad. I gotta go. That's nicer than sticking it out.
Mm-hmm. Angela M. in Atlanta, Georgia, says, when a male and female are walking down the street, shouldn't the male take the outside of the sidewalk?
Well, Angela, although that sounds so nice and romantic and chivalrous, it is no longer applicable. It was due to there were reasons for it back in the day. However, a lot of men who are brought up with, chivalry or etiquette or basic manners will still do that. And that's okay. Just go with it. But in a work-related relationship, don't expect that. Don't, tap your feet and go, excuse me, you are on the wrong side. You don't expect any of those chivalrous acts in the workplace. Now, if he doesn't do it, I've had a couple of women say, well, if he doesn't know how to do that, then that's it. It's over. Okay, honey. If that's his worst trait, if he pulls out your chair and he's nice to you and he listens to you, it's like, let that one go. Okay? So don't make it a big deal. But if he does, be happy about it. And I've also known women to say, well, how dare him? That I don't need that protection. I don't need him to do that anymore. It's like, if it's coming from a good place and you could probably feel it, let him do it. Why is it going to kill you? I think pointing out something like that is the person who does that is more rude than the person who's trying to do something nice.
Okay. And the last one I have here is from Kelsey H. in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. And she just mentions, why is it that the common courtesy of saying, excuse me, pardon me, please, thank you, why isn't that common anymore? Seems like, especially when you're thinking about holding doors open or whatever, it just seems like a really basic thing. She just was wondering if the common courtesy is just not so common anymore.
Well, it starts at home, and I know that's so cliche, but where else are they going to pick it up? At school? Their teacher doesn't have time to go, okay, Johnny, hold the door open for the young ladies. That's not even acceptable anymore. So it really does start at home. It's what they see. The craziest answer I got when I was doing a presentation talking about this was a person actually raised his hand. It was a male. I don't remember the age. And he said, I don't like saying please and thank you, because we were talking about those simple basics. And why? And he said, I feel like I'm in a place of humility. And so I don't want to feel that. I want to feel empowered. So I refuse to say please and thank you. Okay. Wow. I was stunned to hear that someone felt humbled, which I think we need a little bit more of. But opening the doors, I think half of it is we're on our phones and we are so unaware of what is around us to be helping anybody. Even smiling. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. If I make eye contact with a human being, I'm walking in the mall and they just stare or look away, they're so uncomfortable. I don't know where it's going to end, because it's just a smile with another person. But I think we're so on guard also with, what do you want from me? Why are you being nice to me? People feel owed. Or they just don't have the time to think about it, because we're such a hurry to get done what we need to get done, and that's that.
Yeah, maybe it's the stress of life showing up on your face. I know my face is very demonstrative, so I have to be really careful about the way it looks, because I could be just really thinking very intently about something, but my face says, grr, I hate you, back off, and as many people have warned me about that, and like, okay, you don't have to smile and cheese, but please be more mindful and engage with your environment. You know what I mean? Like, you're around people and you don't have to make eye contact with everybody, but you don't also have to look like the Wicked Witch of the West either.
No, I agree. And then the one thing is, if you're out there, you choose to say, I'm going to leave this place. I know it's another cliche, better than when it was here. I'm not going to add to the humdrum, to the fast pace, to the stress of people in this grocery store. I am going to spread a little sunshine, even when I don't want to. That really can change. I know it sounds so corny and Pollyanna, but I don't succeed, but that's what I try to do. I just don't want to make things worse.
This has been really great, Rosalinda. I think that every single point we touched on, we probably could have talked about that point for 20 or 30 minutes at least, because it's just so many layers to it. And you did an excellent job of hitting each place, like kind of Dr. Phil'ing it really quick. And we appreciate it. But we want to know where we can go in depth. We can learn about Don't Burp in the Boardroom and get more of your great tips on civility and social skills.
Well, definitely the book. Thank you so much for mentioning it. And that's on Amazon, Don't Burp in the Boardroom. It's a humorous take on what happens in the workplace and options on how to deal with it, because there is no one way for everybody. And then just to find more, tweet, everything, my newsletter, I would send out a couple times a month, a lot of different tips. Just rosalindarandall.com, and you can find everything there.
Excellent. If you look at the show notes for this episode, I have all of her social media and her website and everything linked there as well. So just in case you didn't catch that, rosalindarandall.com, RosalindaRandall. Thank you so much, Rosalinda, for being here. I appreciate you coming by and kicking it with me.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Anytime.
Send your questions and comments about this show to kickingit@DorieAllen.com. That's KICKINIT. There's no G. at DereeAllen.com. Or you can use Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter to get to me at Deree Allen.